yesterday one really cool thing that you said is like, yeah, I can speak with a police agent or with like a prostitute, with like a drug dealers, and we can connect at the same level if we remove the first layer.
Yeah.
So before going into that, I think what is very important is like we'd like to get a little bit more about your background and how long have you been like this kind of digital nomad, which is not the traditional digital nomad that we see in the cliché so far.
You know, it all started here in 2001 in Bangkok. My first long-term travel trip was triggered by, for so many people of my generation of travelers, reading The Beach, you know, which later made into this movie. And then I really wanted to go to Thailand and made it, and went here in 2001, got hooked up with the travel bug, and since then never stopped traveling. So that was back in the days when you had no smartphone, you had no Wi-Fi in the hostels, right? When you were lost on the street, you had to talk to people and not pull out your phone to check out Google Maps. So I am from a generation of travelers who were used to no technology while traveling, and you know, serendipity and these unexpected things that happen while you're traveling. They really happen way more when you have no responsibilities, when you have an open mind, where you don't have to think about tomorrow at 3 p.m. I have to be on the stable Wi-Fi. And you know, I traveled like that for many years, like not constant, but I had some breaks in between. But in the last 15 years, I probably spent 5 years either living abroad or traveling, maybe a couple of years more. But then, you know, since 2001, and when I went living in Chile for a year, I worked in a startup in Chile with a couple of people. That was amazing because it implanted this mindset that everything is possible. You know, it was 5 different founders from Cuba, from Canada, from Germany, and working in that startup in Chile was something that significantly changed my life, because Chile is a place in 2004 where at 4 a.m. if you watch TV, suddenly you see the background of Windows XP, right? At 4 a.m. it switches to this background, you know, with fields in the background, and you realize they just clicked on some movie, and that was a TV program, and then the movie stopped and you saw the background of Windows XP again. And I'm telling that story to showcase how improvised things were in 2004 in Chile. And the startup was the same. Everything was improvisation. It was so new. It was like what happened in the end of the 90s happened a bit later in Chile. And these guys I was working with, they just winged it. They improvised everything and they made it happen. And they all had this mindset that everything is possible. And that significantly changed my life, being in Chile for a year, learning the language, learning Spanish. Language is the door to the world for me. And you know, then I lived in Spain for a year, but I never worked and traveled, right? I either lived in a place and then was stable there and worked in a startup, or I just traveled. And then, you know, I made a couple of expeditions. I went with the old Mercedes from Berlin to South Africa, crossing like 17 African countries. But also there I filmed, I made a documentary, but I had no pressure and I had no responsibilities. Like tomorrow at 3 it has to be done. So I was very free, and that leaves room for unexpected things and serendipity. After that, I had my own company at some point. We help other companies to improve their customer service by using cloud-based customer service tools such as Zendesk and others. I worked in Zendesk too before. And since I have this company, I took the company on the road. So we bought a Land Rover, went to Buenos Aires, traveled through whole South America, managing the company from the Land Rover, petrol stations, and solar panels, so we could recharge our things, and freshwater tanks, and a bed where we could sleep, and across the deserts and jungles of South America, managing the company. But
how did you manage that company? How did you manage this working and at the same time traveling? You mentioned before in Africa you were doing your video with no pressure, but I guess at one time you get some little pressure. So how do you manage that you're in a beautiful area at the same time you get shit done?
That was not easy. That was not easy. Because when I was in Berlin running the company, I worked 8 to 10 hours a day. Then we came to South America and had the same workload, but on top of that we had to drive 12,000 miles, deal with 20 car breakdowns, contact people, interview people, video editing, publishing, storytelling, social media, all this stuff on top of the usual workload. The funny thing is that I just learned to work really way more productive. And I see a lot of downsides with working and traveling at the same time, but there's also something that was very good for me personally in the style that I'm working. It was prioritization, it was batching things. It was knowing that in 2 hours I'm in the desert and I will not have any internet for 4 hours. That means I really have these 2 hours to make things happen. And then I just work way more focused because I had a little bit of pressure. Right? There was no Facebook, no nothing. I was just 2 hours. I have to respond to 15 emails. It's like 30 seconds per email. And really making use of the time. Also appreciating offline phases. When we were in the desert, 6 hours driving and we knew the next village comes in 6 hours, then I would, somebody would drive and I'm on the other seat. And that gave me time to write better code, for example. Usually I write code to solve problems. But when you're 6 hours in a car and there's nothing else you can do, you really look at your code twice and you write more reusable code. Same with emails. There's these emails that sometimes are marked with a star, so you have to respond, but it needs a big, long response and you never answer them. But if you're sitting there for 6 hours straight, you really take your time to answer, or you write better emails. Instead of just answering the question of the client, you have so much more time to think, what kind of follow-up question could the client have, and can I already respond this in the email I'm writing? So I prevent these back and forth. And one thing that majorly changed a lot, we have daily calls. So we talk to customers nearly every day on Skype. And that's the worst thing that can happen to you if you're an adventurer and traveling around, because that needs good internet, right? But what we did is, we used a scheduling tool like Calendly. Yesterday somebody talked about it too. Because usually, if somebody wants to call, they're like, hey Fabian, we need a call. And then like, where are you? PST, EST, Central Time, whatever. And then, I'm in PST. And you're like, okay, here are 3 options. And then like, these 3 options doesn't fit. What about this? And it's like 5 emails back and forth. With Calendly, you just send a link. And the customer books slot in your calendar and it's automatically blocked. In your Gmail, you get SMS notifications and so on. So what we did is, when we knew we would now cross the desert for 3 days, we would just make these big blocks in our Gmail, say Gcal, in calendar saying driving, 3 days blocked. So the clients couldn't schedule a call on these 3 days. They were forced to schedule it on the 4th day. And we knew on the 4th day we were going to be in Lima or Bogota or wherever with good Wi-Fi. And then we would just batch away all these 10 calls in one day. And that majorly, so there were a lot of positive outcomes of having this super workload, overload of work, and then manage to handle it, because now I'm back, not now, but when I'm in Berlin, I just work way more productive. So there is something good about that.
So yesterday during the conference, you mentioned also something incredible, like your experience in Africa, and after that you were looking like what is the coolest job in the world or something like that online. And you got an application for Zendesk, which is a big company, and that was for the office in London, and you didn't know anything about that. What is your experience of being on the road helps you to finally get that job and also moving back to a 9-to-5 job in a way?
Well, the story is that I was driving through Africa and I got stuck in Congo because I had malaria, and while I had malaria I had internet. So I was lying in bed and trying to keep my mind busy, like doing random stuff. And at one point I googled coolest job of the world on the internet. I wasn't really looking for a job, but a job offer from Zendesk appeared. I didn't know what Zendesk is or does at that time. And I just, I put on my name and my Congolese phone number, and the next day they called me and I was delirium, like hallucinating. So I didn't really give a about getting this job, right? So I just improvised and said a lot of funny things on the phone, and they hired me. So cut my beard, cut my hair, and went to London. And then I had training in San Francisco, Market Street. They have amazing offices. And then I was a little bit scared, because I was this traveler, and now I had to go into a 9-to-5. But it wasn't 9-to-5. It was like 7 to midnight. And that was quite scary, but then, I thought I have to change myself. I act like I'm used to act. You know? I'm someone from the streets. I love the streets. I slept on the street in Africa. And then I went to Zendesk, and they appreciate me for exactly who I was. Because this traveling experience is exactly, especially when you go to difficult, or where there's no tourist infrastructure, like driving a car through Africa, it makes you someone who, in unknown situations, knows how to creatively solve a problem. Like, when you come to a new country and they say, you cannot enter with this vehicle because you don't have this permission and this permission. For me, it's like challenge accepted, right? Then I try to get into this country somehow. And somehow that means you have to sleep at the border for 2 days and drink whiskey with a policeman. But at some point it works. And this is exactly the same environment like in a startup. You have unknown situations, nobody knows what's going on. It's something, if it's a disruptive startup, it means there are no rules. So they need people with this kind of mindset who are out of the box thinkers, who are creative problem solvers. So for me, traveling was a good startup bootcamp. And then at Zendesk, I could apply everything kind of, you know, if you drive a car also to Nigeria, then, you know, it's like nothing else can be more difficult. It's like, okay, then you go to the startup world or in a customer meeting, man, nothing can happen to me anymore after that. So, you know, you're prepared, you're calm, and you can take on the world, right? It's a good preparation for working in the startup world.
Totally. So it's interesting because then you move back to 7 to midnight job, and then after how long? Well, like 1 year, 2 years?
Yeah, 1.5 years. I think.
1.5 years. You show up to your boss with 2 slides in your PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
One is the Zendesk world, and one is your world.
Yeah.
What has been like this trigger of like, okay, no, I need to move back, and maybe we'll go directly to the last question for you. It's like, why would you encourage people to go on the road, to try this experience? What can bring them?
Well, one thing why I encourage is what I just said. You know, it makes you a creative problem solver, it prepares you for very difficult situations that you might face in your life. Because if you go on these kind of trips, it is difficult sometimes, huh? But it prepares you. You get resilient. I think that's the right one. Huh? It's like if you get kids who grow up in the Bronx or something, then they're way more resilient than other people who grow up in Beverly Hills. You know, then they can face difficult situations in life in a different way. So if you travel through Africa, it's kind of the same thing. There's a lot of benefits of traveling. You know? It's like it dissolves boundaries between people. You know, we make personal connections with people which are very different from us, and we embed them in our circle of empathy. I think it's healthy for the world. It's healthy for a person that will make friends everywhere. You know, and okay, so you asked the question, what made me not work at Zendesk? Working at Zendesk was absolutely amazing. I was never more motivated. I never had more motivated colleagues. It was the best company I ever worked for. And I said that many times. I asked my job if I can live in. I asked my boss if I can live in the office. He said no. You know, I was in London. I had no friends there, and I didn't need any because I loved the job so much. But is it still?
I don't know. But we lose the connection here.
There's a good side.
Is this too loud or should I?
Never happened.
Neither.
Okay, folks. So,
Okay.
Let's just.
You know what? I can Skype you to my phone. I think that's the last.
So just to end up this question.
Yeah. So technical problems, like it's been not easy. We'll see if we have one more question for you online, and then we'll wrap up. Do you have the Wi-Fi password?
I'll just record you here,
Okay.
and then
You stop?
yeah. You guys can continue. We'll just do it through here.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the? I mean, I think we're done with the question. Do we have any question online?
Yeah. Let me get it. Live stream is not easy.
No, live stream is a bitch.
This is really weird. I never saw a Mac behaving like that.
No, actually, not like that.
And it's
Oh.
new also.
Maybe it has to be used for some time so it gets used to it. It's a struggle.
Live DNX, 1 sec. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, so I went to some island today, so it was relaxing.
So what was the plan for you after that? You had to move to Bangkok?
Spain, I go back to Spain. My dad was in Spain, and then I drive traffic.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Okay, we have one last question.
Okay.
Can you clarify the definition of digital nomad? Is it a term that applies to different kinds of people?
Wow, I'm not really the best person to ask for. I kind of have nothing to do with all this digital nomad word. You know, just somebody came along and then said, okay, this is now digital nomad. I don't know why I don't know. You know, I guess people work and travel at the same time and sustain themselves by making a living using technology and tools that are available to make money. But I also met the 60-year-old psychologist who does psychotherapy over Skype. And she was traveling around, but she never heard of the term digital nomad. She just did that way before this term was invented. And I met a guitar teacher who does guitar lessons over Skype, or English teachers who do English teaching over Skype. I had a coach, but I never met him in person. I did it over Skype. I guess that's all digital nomad, but I have no idea.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. It was really cool, and I think yesterday your story was